Welcome to the Peer Review Podcast, Creativity and Fulfillment in Academia. I'm Mira Sukharov, and together with my colleague and friend, Sarah Bunin-Benor, in each episode, we talk to fellow scholars, coaches, and other experts on topics related to finding meaning in academia. Today, it's just me with a very special guest, Robbie Shilliam, who is a scholar of post-colonial politics and racial politics in the field of international relations. Robbie is co-editor of the Manchester University Press book series, Post-Colonial International Studies. He's a long active member of the International Studies Association and was the association's vice president. Currently, Robbie is working on two projects, a collective project to rethink the discipline of political science and to retrieve and build alternative approaches to the discipline that more adequately explain racial politics. And second, a critical consideration of the free thinkers of Black faith-based movements and their contribution to what we in academia call political economy. A book called Move Out of Babylon, Rastafari Reason and Political Economy will be published with Penguin Books. Thank you for being here.
A pleasure, Mira, a pleasure.
So, Robbie, you and I are in the same discipline, international relations, but it's a big, broad field, and we do very different things. But I've been indebted to you for introducing a very overlooked aspect to the field, and my students are grateful to you as well, and that is race in international relations. So maybe get us started a little bit, your scholarship, your research interest.
So I guess I'm probably known for doing post-colonial politics and racial politics in IR, international relations. And, you know, the broad argument is kind of twofold. One is that race is largely elided from the stories we tell ourselves about our field, although in the field itself, race has played a really big role in the kind of academic repertoire, both kind of ideologically, but also explanatory. And of course, when you talk about race, you have to start talking about immigration, imperial legacies, colonial legacies and all that kind of stuff. And the second part of that is to think about how the living knowledge traditions of people who have been marginalized, intellectuals, movements, associations, how they might tell us something different about the same subject matter.
I trained in the US. I now teach in Canada, though I was raised in Canada as well. You trained and were raised in the UK and now teach in the US. I'm embarrassed to say that almost all the words you mentioned in your preamble were not brought up in my graduate school program in the States. Did you sort of, in a sense, import long delayed knowledge to across the pond?
Yeah. So there's a lot to say about that. So in the UK, IR is kind of seen as its own field, whereas in the US, of course, it's like a subfield of political science. So that's to say two things. Firstly, that disciplines can evacuate a lot of things which can be retrieved by interdisciplinary work. But the other thing is that disciplines make you accountable. And if it's the case that in places like the US, I would say academia in general, but especially in the US, if it's the case that resources and prestige accrue to disciplines, and they do, right? If you think about knowledge as politics, small p politics, we have an accountability to actually deal with disciplines. Another element of that is that sometimes you can very misread a discipline, and you could imagine that the interdisciplinary is the place you go for freedom. And, you know, my work has always been interdisciplinary, not because I kind of give it a virtue, but it's just how I bungled my way through, frankly. But for example, if you think about IR, you know, for a long time, the argument was IR, realism, doesn't give a damn about race. let's go to history, let's go to lit studies, let's go to sociology.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Hans Morgenthau wrote his second book focusing on US foreign policy. He wrote self-avowedly in an attempt to figure out how the Brown versus Board of Education decision in 1955 changed the landscape for US foreign policy in the Cold War.
Mm-hmm.
And the big framing of that book was race.
Mm-hmm.
So we might ask, why is it that we don't teach Morgenthau as a theorist of race, rather than say there's no race in IR? Similarly, John Hertz, famous security studies guy, introduced to the field the idea of security dilemma. He came up with that idea in Howard University, you know, the famous historically black college in Washington, D.C. He was hired by Ralph Bunche, you know, the famous Nobel Prize dude, first African American to get a PhD in political science. And Hertz got there because, you know, he was a Jewish refugee from Germany, and Princeton didn't want him. He did a year or two there, you know, and only HBCUs tended to employ Jewish refugees. And Hertz developed the security dilemma in conversation with people like Ralph Bunche and the historians there, who were all talking about Jim Crow.
Mm.
So, in other words, we can escape to the interdisciplinary. It's a good escape sometimes. It's a worthy escape, especially because it brings us ideas and approaches which might have been excluded from our field. But we might also want to think about what it means to dwell in the interdisciplinary in terms of our intellectual accountability.
Mm-hmm.
Many of the grads I've taught think that people who superstar academics who actually published as historians or as literature people are interdisciplinary. No, they're not. They were disciplinary, and then they became famous beyond their discipline.
These are fascinating stories and context, and I think the sociological and political contemporaneous context for the thinkers you're talking about is very much underappreciated and undertaught and understudied. So that gets us nicely into thinking about the environments in which we work and play and struggle and strive. And so what?
Have you got time to play, Mira?
Well, this is the aspiration. This is what we're hoping for in this podcast. I mean,
Oh, okay.
this is a big question. So let me put it to you. Is your work day ever playful?
No, that's what it is.
Okay, I like it. Well, that right there is, I love it. For those who are tuning in and aren't seeing the YouTube, there was a very young person sitting next to Robbie on the couch with some earphones, with a video game, with a snack that looks very delicious. It might have been ice cream.
Don't tell anybody.
So yeah,
No,
is work ever
no.
play for you?
It's meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
Some parts of it are enjoyable. It's never playful. I mean, I left school early. I did a lot of diverse activities in my 20s. I came back to college, did what the equivalent of a community college kind of thing, in my late 20s, did my PhD, you know, became faculty. Um, we only had started having children when I was 45. Now I'm 55. And so the way I see it is I had all my free time front loaded. And
Mm-hmm.
now
Right.
basically it's work forever.
And they say that youth is wasted on the young. So was that the case in your case, or did you appreciate it?
No comment, man.
No comment. Okay. Now I'm a little envious of a couple things now. The envy is piling up. Robbie's activities when he was young and his professional activities in his CV.
Until I started taking on more administrative roles
Mhm.
and leadership roles, I listened to this podcast once from Harvard Business School,
Mhm.
and it struck me
Mhm.
intuitively as kind of right.
Is it
Yeah,
age, maturity, or accomplishment that leads to this shift? Do you recall?
yeah.
Do you think?
I would say maybe that we come to an awareness
Mhm.
that meaning starts to be imbued in more structural work, right? Because as we came up, we benefited from the structural work that other people did. Having graduate programs, allowing people in who might not otherwise come in for whatever reason, opening up journals and opening up conference spaces, and all this kind of stuff, right? And then we come to an awareness that this wasn't just because we were incredible and genius. It was that people had done this structural work.
Really like that. Can you give an example of things you've been working on structurally that are in your service positions that are giving you this sense of meaning?
I would say a good example of that is this section that we have in ISA, International Studies Association, called the Global Development section. And that started off as quite a marginal space, a core group of people doing really important work to kind of open that up. And then over time, a number of us, I have not been the most important person in this, made efforts to open it up to new generations of scholars coming through and to make it reflexive and attentive to the kind of things that they're doing, right? And over time, I would go to the ISA, not actually, principally not because I was given a paper, but principally to witness and to be part of this flourishing of this space with new voices and new people. I would say administratively, but one example would be I helped to put in place a criteria in our tenure promotion, which we didn't have before, which was about engaged scholarship. So in other words, if you're doing research, engaged research counts. It's not the thing, but it expands the aperture of what research is. If you do engaged teaching, expands the aperture of what teaching is. What I do know is that it opens up the diversity of scholarly pursuits for early career scholars. And it also means that when they have to do this terrible thing about counting their work, they can count all of their work rather than just exclude some of it.
Right. What I'm really optimistic by is that when you said that the ego and the need to chase the accolades can lead to a spirit of generosity to build the structures that we came of age within ourselves or that we blossomed within. I think right now I'm still addicted to that high, and I'm trying to overcome that because I'm not sensing that it's a good thing. So what Sarah and I often talk about sometimes is the empty calories, as we call it, of the obsessive of checking email and all the things that we do on our phone, some of which can be very fruitful and important in lots of ways, and some of which are just ways of kind of getting through the day. So what's your relationship with obsessive tasks like social media, checking your phone?
I was all social media until about 2016, 2017. When I realized that Facebook is the place where you lose friends and Twitter is the place where you find enemies. And I got off Facebook, and then when Elon Musk freed the bird, I got off Twitter, and now I'm on Blue Sky, but I never post. A colleague of mine put it really well when he said, as scholars, we should give ourselves the space and the privilege amongst ourselves to make comments which are half-formed, to react to events or other people's work in a reactive fashion, to float things which might have no legs. We should give ourselves the space and the privilege to do that, which is not public. And we should not feel that we have to react to every single thing in a public fashion. And if we're not doing that, then we're wrong or we're bad. And what I'm saying is, it was the wrong space to do any of that.
Right.
Because it was all public, no matter how you tried to deal with it, right? And it was worse than that. It was confessional.
Hmm.
It was confessional. Um,
And what do you mean by
and
that?
meaning your silence confessed to your faults, your moral failings.
Hmm.
But if you weren't silent, then your words confessed to your moral failings because they were never enough.
Hmm. So it's sort of it's a trap, you know,
It's an
and
utter trap, and it takes so much time and energy, and it's not an intellectual space. What I appreciate is people posting stuff,
mm-hmm.
right? So that's where I'm on Blue Sky because I get people's links to particular blogs or articles or whatever. I think that's wonderful. Um, yeah. Now, what I do,
Hmm.
which I have to be really careful of,
Okay, I'm
is
waiting.
I play Assassin's Creed. I
Okay.
stole my daughter's Xbox,
Yeah.
play Assassin's Creed, and I try and do half of that, half an hour of that, maybe, but try not to do that except for like maybe once or twice a week, and
Well,
then I most nights I'll watch some sci-fi rubbish
mhm. Well,
on
your secret
Netflix.
is safe with us.
Thank you.
Yes. Now, sci-fi rubbish. I mean, there is a whole subfield in our field, as you know, about
Yeah,
sci-fi, dystopia, um,
yeah.
and video games. So you could always intellectualize it if you wanted into a peer review piece, but no pressure.
Nah, I ain't gonna do that.
Tell us before we let you go about how your teaching has evolved.
These days, I tend to prefer co-teaching. I co-teach a lot, and I kind of, especially undergrad, and I kind of teach on topics that I want to learn about. So this fall, when I say co-teach, I'm going to be the useful idiot in a course on data science and political science. Yeah, yeah. When I was young, I did this test in the late 80s for one computer programming, and I was like one in 2000 people who passed it. So I have a past life actually being a internet marketeer and gaming Google algorithms and all that. Um, but I've got no idea about data science. But it's important. It's an evolving field. So I love co-teaching because it also stops you from just diatribing.
Okay. Mm. But you
So
have a bigger
stop me from
audience.
diatribing, Miranda.
But there's a bigger audience, an N plus one. So it would get me wanting to diatribe even more. But I am envious of the co-teaching. This is such a prosaic question, but the
Yeah.
dollars and cents aspect. I mean, I don't think
Oh,
we would be allowed to do it at our university because it would be too expensive.
this is our great, great privilege at the moment, at least, is that our budget isn't dependent on our teaching numbers. I co-teach a class of 10. It's a real indulgence.
Mhm.
But I think co-teaching and striking up conversations is really important. Listening to interacting in a conversation amongst them with faculty, I think is really valuable. So in the spring, so Hopkins has got this thing at the moment where there's this arrangement it has with the American Enterprise Institute.
Mhm.
And the purpose of that is to get intellectuals who come from different perspectives, might have different values, are dealing with different audiences because there's the policy peeps and the think tank peeps and there's the academic peeps, right? And to deliberate on a shared topic. So I'm going to do that with a colleague in the AEI called Ben Story on. We're going to teach a course on liberal education, a contested subject. If you're talking about fun, that's
Mhm.
fun for me.
What you said, I
Yeah.
think it's so true.
Mm.
Um, so thank you for giving me and Sarah and our audience today so many things to think about with regard to building structures, enabling creativity, co-teaching if you can. And it's really also making me think of wanting to go a bit farther back in the constitutive chain of ideas and see who's standing on whose shoulders. Something we often forget. I just don't want people to go too far back with what I've read and forget about me. But that's always a risk. Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, well, anybody who's read De Foucault knows that that's inevitable.
It's inevitable. And we'll look forward to your next book with Penguin. And since it's Penguin,
So do I. I look forward to it too.
Yeah, we all look forward to our own next books whenever they fall out of the sky when the stork delivers them.
All right.
Thank you, Robbie. It was great to chat with you today.
Thank you, Sarah, for inviting me. I appreciate it.
The Peer Review podcast is produced and hosted by Sarah Bunin-Benor and Mira Sukharov. Talia Ehrenberg is assistant producer and editor. The music is written and performed by the Galactic Ambassadors. Support for this podcast comes from a faculty grant from Hebrew Union College. If you would like to sponsor an episode, you can reach us at peerreview@huc.edu. You can join the conversation on Facebook at Peer Review, Cultivating Creativity and Fulfillment in Academia. Thank you for listening.